we're going to be doing some group work. And you see, the concept of that wheel is still there, because wheel is something that is continuous. It never ends. As it evolves and it rolls and rotates, it goes through different stages. Just think about the wheel of a tire. As you're driving, maybe you're driving from Ojuelegba to Lekki, the roads are definitely going to change. At some point, there'll be potholes. At some point, you have a puddle. At some point, you have a stop sign, or you will have a bunch of police officers with their guns drawn doing a checkpoint. The same happens when you're going to Lagos. Ibadan. So think about that when you get together as a group. And as I was telling my co-presenters, my colleagues, we do not want, people, we want this group to be heterogeneous in nature. I was going to take time to ask the kind of, audience that we have, but my understanding is that we have them from both elementary, secondary, university levels. So that's fine. If you can make that group, more heterogeneous in nature, so homogeneous, that will help to make a robust, I would say, if you will, presentation or talk about all those questions that I did ask. It's very important. We're looking at 3 to 4 groups to reflect on the questions and identify one pressing problem, just one, because I know that we don't have time to identify more than. After having responded to all those questions, after having reflected on all those questions, you will get together as a group and then look at it in-depthly and then say, what is that one pressing problem of practice that we have in our organization? A problem of practice could be systemic, could be actually individual. And then tomorrow, when we look at strategies, that help us to be good leaders. Today, we've talked about, knowing ourselves as leaders, knowing, certain things that we need, the ABCs of leadership plus the R, right? But tomorrow, we'll be looking at the structures, things that will make all these things happen if we know who we are and where we've come from. So I hope that you have taken to heart what Mr. Gwenga presented, because everything is tied together. Then you will be reporting back and sharing. After we have shared, we'll be looking at maybe the possibility of a common theme, and that will be like a sticky note or a Jamboard format, because there are some of our colleagues who are joining us on that. I will pause in case there are questions at this point in time.
Okay, so I think I don't know, I think we need to mix now.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Any questions for her? If you don't have any questions for her, I'll form groups of 3 or 4 groups, so we'll do 5 people in a group. Then, so look at them, then collectively.
So how many minutes do you want them to take? I see that, oh my gosh, it's 6:41 now. Well, I think 12:41 over there. So I don't know, maybe I would just leave it up to you to decide how much time they need to do this activity.
Can you 10 minutes?
Pardon?
No, you're choosing just one as a group, so you focus and rank amongst yourself, just one pressing problem of practice. So let's mix up. I just was going to ask this, think about this, but no, you're not doing the variant. You can look at the variant, because it's not about it in the morning. Yeah.
Back to the question for reflection.
Okay, I've stopped sharing.
Okay, that's fine. So you talk about problem and opportunities, right? That's what you want to discuss on.
Right, absolutely. You know, the most important is for them to identify that, problem. Well, if you could identify more than one, that's fine. I just do not want to be too presumptuous, knowing how short our time is. Yes, problems and opportunities. I reflect on those questions first. Try to find out, based on what you know from the field. I'm glad I'm to educators. And I'm sure you have a whole lot of stories, you have a whole lot of instances, you have a lot of, I'll say, suggestions that you could put forth.
So Fatima, please can you put up the question again on the screen? Can you share your screen? Can you hit the question?
Sure. I could do that. Okay, I could definitely do that. Let me share my screen again. We do have more questions. So do you want us to? Okay, we're talking about the current systems, that have the greatest impact from your point of view. And if you're in groups, you have to come to an agreement of what system has the greatest impact, right? And to make it more complicated, we're telling you to not be from the same, school or something like that, or the same ministry, etc. Just so that you have a diversity of, I would say, ideas. So did you get this one? May I move to the next slide? Okay. So what are in place to help support? Pardon?
Now I'm trying to clarify.
Okay, the main task.
Problems you showed us or questions or a problem of practice.
Sorry, I can't hear.
A problem of practice in their institution relating to this previous items we talked about, or just generally, because we feel like generally or specific to this.
Well, all those questions have to be taken into consideration when they're identifying a problem of practice.
Okay, so
they can't just do it in isolation.
Okay, all right. So
the most important part is identifying a problem of practice, and then coming back and sharing it with the group, and then doing the Jamboard, just so that we can have a visual representation of what the problem of practice is. And from there, we build on for tomorrow's activity. Pardon?
I'm trying to clarify for Lagos. Yeah. Okay. So basically, you're looking at just we're trying to define the problem, and can show us different questions. But now you're thinking of a problem of practice that is prominent in your organization in relation to the question of quality education, the questions she walked us through earlier. So which one is the most prominent problem of practice? So now not doing something institutional or in the end, something that applying it in engaging with your school, whether it has to do with lifelong opportunities or what is the other one you have? So running on which one, and I see which one is the most pertinent. So we're trying to agree. So each person can share from their different institutions.
No, mute it. I'm not talking. It's mute. Wait, it's not mute.
So is it clear what the expectations are?
Okay, so I think the confusion is the questions that we have on the board. They are not problems. These ones are not problems. They're questions.
Those are reflection questions.
Questions.
There are questions that will lead you to identifying that problem of practice.
Thinking about achieving this question, you're reflecting on them earlier. So what is it, for example, it could be a problem of infrastructure that prevents us from achieving lifelong opportunities for our students. You understand? So what is it? So thinking about all these different questions, what is preventing us in our practice from being able to do this? Does that make sense?
Maybe it would be best for them to answer these questions, and then in answering them, they will come to a conclusion as to one overarching problem that they have identified as a problem of practice, a problem that is making them not move on. A problem of practice is that endemic situation that is not allowing you to progress. So if they have time, they can answer those questions. And in so doing, they will identify that it will come in easier for them. And then tomorrow we will build on that and build and work on the plan. Is that better? So how many groups do we have all together?
We have 4 in Lagos. I don't know how many in Ibadan.
6 groups in Ibadan.
Oh, 6. So we have 10 groups all together. Oh my. Okay, good. When each group shares out. So how much time do I have left? I just want to make sure that I'm not taking you guys way too far, because I had so many things that I needed to share, which I would not. I can't. No, I can't. I don't know. There's something with the Lagos line for some reason.
It sounds like we can hear, but like for our own talking, I think it's still happening through here. Can you hear me now? Let me try that. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, I can hear you now.
Let me try and check if I do. Okay. Let me use within headphones. Where is it? So this is speaker stereo. But it looks like it's not working because on microphone. Oh yeah.
I can hear you faintly now. I know you're talking, but it's not, it's not intelligible. It's not clear.
Is it better?
Okay, what you said, is it better the second time? Yes, it improved a little bit. Yeah. But can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you clearly.
Can you guys hear me though?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
So I don't understand what's going on. Yeah.
We can hear you clearly in Ibadan.
Yeah, Ibadan is clearer actually. Throughout this, Ibadan has been much clearer than Lagos. Yeah, that's what I want to know too. I'll leave the timing to you. Lagos and Ibadan.
And then we'll share out.
We'll share out and then they'll do the Jamboard. The sharing out will be from, whatever they have, they will put it on the Jamboard or the sticky. I know that you have something that they could use live also for those who are in Lagos and Ibadan, right?
They have the sticky note now, so I want to start collecting the sticky note and putting it in the Jamboard.
Okay. And then the different groups will just talk briefly about what they came up with and why. And then we'll go to the Jamboard and look at it and see whether there are common themes. So are you going to give the Jamboard to those online or do you want me to flash it out? I think you were going to send that, right? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You can help us paste for those online. I don't have the link here in the chat.
So do you want me to put it in the chat then?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me do that. Okay. Okay. Everybody's looking so good. So I have it online.
Hello, can you hear us better?
Yeah, I can hear you better now. Yes, I can.
Okay. Now we see the problem because the settings of Zoom I've updated it. It should be clearer now, right?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Yeah, it was Zoom settings.
Oh, I see.
President, can you put the post the thing again in the chat because I don't join, so I can't have access to any chat that was before me. Yeah, put the chat.
Yeah, I don't see any responses on the Jamboard yet. So I hope our online participants are able to. Thanks, Global. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I see that Global School of Africa or Global School Africa has posted it too. So that should be fine. Thank you for doing that. So you guys are in charge of the time. So let us know when they need to share. Come together and share.
So this group will write your answer on the sticky note.
I really like the way people are focusing and working. This is really nice. Shows good team effort. Oh, okay. Great idea. Please put it in the chat. I'm also watching the chat, so it's amazing. Thank you for that, for suggesting that they put it in the chat.
Please write your
I'll see you watch What?
There is one identified in the Jamboard, top-down decision making.
Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy.
Okay, monitoring and evaluation, yes.
Okay, so I think we're ready. Let's wrap up so that we can finish on time. Thank you. Okay, so we're ready. You guys, are you ready? One representative by group, please.
Are we ready to share?
Yes, we're ready, Lagos.
Okay. I see that group 6 has already shared, on the chat, which is great. They identify the lack of monitoring and evaluation. Wow. Hopefully they'll give us more information on that. Monitoring from school leaders, monitoring from stakeholders, meaning community, and then evaluation. What is the structure of evaluating leaders in Nigeria? And the wrong mindset and bad attitude. I'm really very, very interested in knowing more about that. Group 6, well, we could start with any group. So since group 6 has it on the chat, maybe we'll start with group 6 and then what, because we have 10 groups, right? We may not get to all 10 groups because I understand it's 12. Is it 12? No, it's actually 103, right? By Nigeria time. Please, could you speak to this wrong attitude? Wrong mindset and bad attitude, because we talk about mindset a lot these days. Who wants to build?
Okay. It's a group from Ibadan. So
yes.
Ibadan. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. We were able to highlight 3. Let me talk on wrong mindset and bad attitude. Like it was in our group, we were able to share this. That I was once a participant in a workshop like this organized by Chevron. And only for me to realize that the principal of the school that was supposed to bring along the staff members actually brought all his family members because of the financial gain of the conference or part of the seminar. And part of the pastor was, part of the family members was the one that, as time goes on, she was actually, she couldn't put out her name. I was the one that assisted her in writing her something and filling all the details. And I was like, how come? Are you not studying your school? And she said, no, this is my brother that brought me here. After the seminar, I just gave them some little cash, and that was when we elected wrong and bad attitude.
Empathy is part of it. Thank you.
I partner want to share on the second.
Yeah. The lack of monitoring and evaluation, right?
Good afternoon, everybody. We also mentioned that we can't remove the human factor from anything you do. If your approach to anything is wrong, if you don't have the right attitude towards something, it's not going to work, and it's a major problem. We can have all the policies, we can have all the rules, we can have all the benefits, but if your approach is wrong, then we are still back to ground zero, and it's a major problem. Thank you.
Yeah, hold that thought. What would be a good approach? Hopefully in your plan tomorrow, that will come out. Thank you so much. Group.
Okay, group 3 wants to share from
Ibadan. So,
Benga, I'll respond to your question after they have all shared. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you, everyone. We've been able to identify that there is no clear-cut current support system from the government. However, we've been able to agree that the old students of most of the schools in Nigeria are doing fantastic things to create a kind of support system for the children and, of course, for the teachers. Again, we do not have much from government, but we have some schools involve our students in selection of school officers, trying to democratize the system, teaching the children how to lead and how to select leaders. Some have manifesto nights, they have a presentation of their, what they want to do, and so on. and then the children find it very exciting. To have structures that can support students' achievements, we agree that we need more of ICT, sports, passionate and qualified teachers, laboratories, and of course, budgeting system, in spite of the insecurity in the country. And we feel that if we have all of this, we'll be able to have structures that can support students' achievement. Structures that help to build capacity. We agree that workshops of this nature, seminars, conferences, training and training of teachers will help to build capacity. And what are the implications for providing quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030? It will be a great thing to achieve that. It will help us to have reduction of insecurity. It will help us to have reduction in crime. It will create self-reliance the more. It will give more employment. And of course, it will create better development and of course a better life for individuals. A pressing problem of practice is opposition to change from stakeholders. We need a change of mindset if we are to achieve all these wonderful goals. Thank you.
Thank you. What group is that, please? I'm recording the groups that are sharing. I know group 6 has shared.
We didn't know group 3 from Ibadan because we didn't know the numbers Lagos were picking. So let's say the 2 have shared from Ibadan. So maybe we'll give Lagos opportunity to share before we invite
Oh, absolutely. No, I just want to know the group so that I can duly record it.
Group 3, Ibadan. Yeah. So you have 1. So you have 5. 5. Yes.
Lagos is sharing group 4. We can't hear you, but you're not responding to us.
Thank you.
You consider the educational the structure and the delivery. So the way educational system is structured and delivered. Instead, no. For the following reasons. Number 1, the structure is not meeting our local needs. It's not meeting our local needs as a nation. We are saying we want to develop vocational and technical skills. We make children self-reliant and independent and for them to be global accepted. But our system is not really teaching these children to have this faith. If the child does not do well in school, and the school advises them, maybe such as to go to technical school, so parents be frown at it. They say, why? No, let me go to technical. Let me see here. We have to convince them that even when that child goes to technical school, they have their own exam that they are right to now say, and they can equally use that certificate to go for a job exam and go into the university. The other point is that the junior secondary school exam that is being run, I just think at example about 6 years. The way they do in Katsina, after the 3 exams, the students are generalized and checked. Those that they feel they cannot go to the special science secondary school, they cannot get to go to a grammar school. And when the university college was available, the Union Arabic Teachers College in Pima, some of the guys were encouraged to go there or to go to science classes so that they will have skills. Others do not go to the technical school. But now, after the junior secondary school, here in Lagos, all of them will just go to a session grammar school too. Preference is not given to those that really excel in science to go to a science, special science to where they will concentrate more in strong science only. The third point here we have is that not everyone is included. I agree that we have school for non-science, hearing and speaking, but not all everyone. It's better to be in the most areas they cannot go there, or for those that are boarding schools, they cannot afford. They cannot afford to pay. Children with cerebral palsy, except we move to those that have really gone through such, and they help us place some students in school or people in school. They are not in school. Those that are mentally retarded, they are not even considered. The other thing is that the out of school, some parents come to school because I teach in a secondary school. After the GS3, if the holidays, the gap between that GS3 and resuming there's a zone, it is long. Before that, and some of our girls, there was a year, 11 of our girls since they were pregnant. And after the they can't come into the every school for them and are going to and home. But those in the Korodu, and Hawaii, they cannot come there. It's a coaching, it's a day school, and the distance is far. But when I'm teaching in GS, government secondary school man in we have students in school that were pregnant, but we made a place for them to take them for antenatal, they have their children, we run immunization, and they still use back to school. Now, we find out that the educational system, if a child goes out of school, maybe due to financial difficulty, if the university level is usually poor. I remember when I was my final year in Uniland as a part-time student, the children thought they had students. Out of that, there for 2 years, because I was doing educational difficulty. Because the program again, there's nothing we can do. But I signed off for the day Professor I get to Mobi and Professor Devin. When I went to them, they said, look in man and go and take documents to show that these things happen. So they start to run for continuation. So they were the ones that helped me. Most of the people that have access to this. So these are the reasons why we said the way our education system is being structured and delivered is not really
Wow.
Okay,
Thank you.
Because of time,
Said a lot.
you can share the Jamboard from your hands. We typed everything there, and then if there's anyone you want us to share, so that we finish right on time. So Jamboard is populated already. Let's share, and then they can just chip in briefly when you see your comments.
Oh wow, this is good.
So can you share your screen so everyone can see it?
Oh, sure. Let me do that. So can you see?
Yes.
You know, I was trying to read everything. Boy, I am just so impressed. And this is something that will save. Hopefully, you know, when you look at it. Okay, let me not say more. What are the overarching problems here? Because as they were talking, I was making notes. I can't hear you though.
Maybe full screen. Full screen.
I thought it was full screen. Okay, let me try it. Thought it was full screen here.
You cannot zoom.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
You
know, something is covering my
I think that's
something is covering. I know. Let me.
moving from the top.
Let me look at full screen.
Yeah, but I think they should manage them.
Yeah, you know, let me see if I can. I would still love to do it. Thing is, I can't actually see the. Let me see whether I can move this down a little bit.
It's on Chrome.
No, it's not.
What's your it is on? Not on. No, sorry.
Do you want me to read them?
So let's share our own screen.
Okay, we are not satisfied with the structure. That's a problem of practice, lack of satisfaction, right? And there's a lot about structure here. The support system is internal and is very impacting. Then this person put in parentheses in private schools. We were, thinking that private schools are a lot better. Faculty foundations caused by the fact that the system and those in charge are not as concerned with building children at their early stages, as they are with what? Pushing them out of the system. This is deep. This is huge. And we could actually look at why that is. And then parents should cooperate and work hand in hand with the school for building total child. Are the schools inviting parents to be partners in that? That's my question. The child should be seen as our child and not just their child. And that's what's happening, especially with leaders. Most of them, we are just taking the statistics the other day. A lot of them are abroad learning. And then if the system is broken, maybe that's because people are not invested in it. There's inconducive learning environment, absolutely. I was actually hoping for questions, problems of practice like in infrastructure. So this would definitely address that, hopefully. Educating the child should be a collective societal responsibility. 100% I agree with you, especially public education. Any country that does not invest in its public education is building a very, very solid failure for posterity. Lack of adequate and qualified, passionate teachers. Yeah, somebody did talk about that, passionate and dedicated teachers. Why is that? When teachers are not paid for 6 months and everything, how passionate do you want them to be? Teachers' welfare is taken for granted. I agree. Probably why they are not passionate. Student orientation about life is thwarted. They are more materialistic. Absolutely. My nephews, everybody writes me because I'm the only one abroad. My whole family is back home, apart from my husband and children. And I am really connected with what's going on, especially in the north with my, nieces and everybody else that, education is becoming, a pariah. And actually, everybody wants, why do you want to go to school? To make more money. Why do you want to go? I mean, it is replete with materialism. And that's one thing that we have to change that, I would say, narrative. We have to change that concept and mindset, as Group 6 talked about earlier. Most schools are established with the sole aim of making profit. This is affecting learning outcomes. Very, very true. Very true. And that's why we need to invest in public education. Private education is great. I'm not going to bash it because that's the other option that people have with a broken public system. But even private educators, it's our responsibility to fix our public education system. Lagos Group 4. Okay, let me give them credit for that. They are saying not meeting our local needs. Yes, it starts with the local needs. They say charity begins where? At home, right? Although it doesn't end there. That is very true. Not everyone is included. Yeah, inclusiveness, as we will see tomorrow, is one of those things that you as a leader can definitely champion. Out of school children. Yes, Nigeria has the highest number of out of school children in Africa. 10 million or more of them. Most of them are in Kano, where I come from. The Almajiri dynasty is another pariah, is another problem for us. So we talk about problems of practice. These are the things that we're talking about. So I'm glad you're bringing them out. Students who dropped out are not given a second chance to continue. For 2 years in our district is actually the second largest in the state of Minnesota. And You know, when I finished with a PhD, I would have taught in universities, be a professor and whatever. But here is a different concept. It's more difficult to get into the K-12 system. I had to go back to school, do more credits, get a license, all those things, because it starts from the root. It is very, very, it's prestigious. When I go home, oh, you're a high school principal, you're an elementary school principal. Those things are mindsets that we have to change and invest in our case, primary and secondary educational system, because we build a solid foundation. Students who dropped out. For 2 years, I worked as the alternative education. I was in charge of the district's alternative education program. We have what they call gateway to college. People who dropped out, no matter how long they had dropped out, we bring them back. And those people are into a lot of career educational opportunities. And then, and I just a pressing problem of practice is opposition to change from stakeholders. Do you know that you guys are stakeholders too? We are all stakeholders. Educators, parents, leaders, community, we are stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders causing this hardship, change? You remember earlier I started by saying that change is great. It's amazing. We should embrace it. Resistance to it is what's the problem. And this is really a very, very good revelation of that. Let's start thinking about stakeholders. If we're part of it, then we have to build up the morale of others who are causing this, I would say, roadblock. ICT, sports, passionate and qualified teachers, labs, boarding in some schools. Yeah, boarding schools are becoming a hardship especially to all the kidnappings that are happening. They're becoming a target. So is that something that we need to change? I went to boarding schools, elementary and secondary, and I know I learned a lot and it added value to my life today. But again, change. Is that what we need to do? We talk about sports. Many opportunities have opened up for a lot of students their sports. I remember going to school, it was, okay, I couldn't, type because that was not the route. Tracking, that's another thing that we're doing in our country, which is truncating people's opportunities and avoiding, people from bringing out their talents. Workshops and seminars, conferencing, training, and retraining of teachers help build capacity. Absolutely. We do a lot, and my districts and public schools is really known for professional development. It's one of those, I would say, the best part of being, an educator in this particular part of the world, especially in that district. They invest in it, and we see results. Although, let me not lie, we still have the highest gap, in the country. Why is it so? We're looking at other things, diversity, and so many other racism. Don't forget that. That is also part of the problems that we're looking at. But professional development is key also. Reduction of insecurity, crime reduction, self-reliance, more employment, better life. Those are problems, absolutely. Better life through education. Some people will tell you that education is not the only way for better life. I'm like, okay, give me a better way, However, we're looking at purely liberal arts education as opposed to career education. Because nowadays, you see people, they'll say, okay, I am studying mass comm. I'm studying history. There's no problem with that. But with history, a degree in history, and please forgive me, pure history, what are you going to be doing with it? You have to add something to it. Go to a educational setting and make sure that you have what they call a skill that will help you navigate this system and the world. Not much from government. However, some schools involve students in selection of officers, including class teachers and coordinators. That would be nice to know, how those schools are doing these things, because it's really important. In my language, it says, there's a Juma and Desate daga Alhamis ake saninta. Anything that is going to be good, you start knowing it from today. That's basically what it is. So it is very important for us to start looking at those systems that we ourselves are putting in place and getting our students entrenched and engraved into them, because we cannot build a future that we do not want to live in. And I am harder on us, because I know, barring all these difficulties, we still hold the key to, we have access, we have opportunities to the young ones. So we still hold the key to framing the minds of our young ones. regardless of what our conditions of service are, right? And this is also from Lagos Group 1. Overload curriculum, infrastructure problems. I like that. Incessant strikes, yes. Inadequate personnel, inadequate structural materials. These are really important pieces. Nigeria has money. I don't know where the money is going. When you look at our curriculum, they said overload. It's just like regurgitating, whatever we have today. It's like we do not look at it in the context in which we live and operate. We are forever looking at committees, forming committees to look at the curriculum and then making, and some of those decision makers are not even educators. And that is the problem, because you cannot diagnose a problem when you do not have any knowledge of what that problem is. It's just like when I go, say for example, I go for a kidney, no, let me not use that, that's extreme. Appendicitis, I want to get it removed. And then I see this surgeon come into the book with a big book, how to, remove appendicitis. I will run, I'll really pick race, because that's not the time for you to start looking at how-to books. You should come with some certain set of skills. And that's one thing that we have to really build. Again, without proper professional development or professional learning communities, it is very difficult. Attitude of teachers, students, and parents. Communication gap, yes, between the schools and the home. Leadership problem. Communication is very critical. You cannot build relationships and make impact in people's lives if you do not communicate. So it is very important for us to have systems in place as leaders where you allow teachers, you allow parents, allow students to communicate. Earlier, somebody was talking about the student voice. We are moving from top down now in the classroom. The teacher is seen as a facilitator. You facilitate knowledge. I went to a class to observe. The teacher did not give any new information. I was petrified. That was my earlier. This is my 20th year as a school principal in the state of Minnesota, and of course, I'm also adjunct professor in other where I train and help train teachers. So it is very important that when we go to those classrooms, we look at teacher behavior, teacher attitude, etc. I came out of that class thinking, okay, what did she teach? Because she asked questions throughout, and when the results came, her students were among the best in terms of achievement in the tests. Although, test is not everything, but that's how we're measured. So we might as well embrace it. So through her questions, students learned and she led them. Tell me more, she would say. Tell me about that. Why is that? And then the students continue to talk. Okay, now I want you to solve this problem. How do you want to solve it? It's not like, okay, 1 + 1 must be 2. I learned a lot. And I kept on going and going and going and learning and learning and learning. We have to be lifelong learners and not say because we hold the torch to leadership, it's all about us, And then down decision making, yes. That's one thing I would like to see, the structure, how the Nigerian structure is designed that allows you to.
No, don't move, he's talking now. I've done the mood. He's talking now.
Are we okay? And then they say no clear current supportive system from government. However, all students are supported in some states. Okay. This one needs a lot of also reflection, because who is the government really? We are the government. The people that we put ahead to lead us, we put them in because we do have a vote. So we have to start looking inwards when we're talking about the government. Looking at how we contributed to the system that will allow us to strike half the year instead of being in classrooms. That will allow the students to go into dilapidated buildings called schools and learn. That will allow our leaders to really do what they have to do, in order to take care of a few and not the majority. Lack of monitoring and evaluation, that is really important. That will bring me to the question that Mr. Gwenga asked, why systems work, in other countries, systems that work in other countries fail in Nigeria. This is my very, very humble opinion. Haven't studied, haven't lived, haven't looked, have discussed and haven't really felt the pain of my people. I think it all boils down to accountability. The lack of it is what is causing these problems. I'm not giving you a solution. I'm just telling you based on the question of me, because I can give you myriad examples of countries that seem to make it, like Finland. Everybody talks about Finland. Finland is number one. You know, when you look at the school rating, even us, the United States, were 26 or so. Finland, Finland, Finland. Why is that so? Every teacher is held accountable for what they do. Parents are held accountable. Everybody has a role to play. And once that role is not done, you know, to some level of satisfaction, you can never get to perfection. We're humans. There is somebody to hold you accountable for that. And sometimes the price is very, very expensive to pay. If you do not evaluate, how would you know that progress is being made? We need to have a solid evaluation system. In the system here, before you become a tenured teacher, that's in the public section. The private school, anybody can teach as long as you can read and write. That's how it is, because the pay is extremely low to the point that people are just there. And some of them are there just to help alleviate the high, heavy-handed tuition. But the public educational system is the bona fide system that is established for every single citizen. And they hold us accountable for the kind of work that we do, how we deliver. And also they are like, okay, we have trained you. Go forth and make it work. We have what they call professional learning communities, where teachers sit and look at a problem. If there is, how many times have we looked at data and say, okay, you know, how many times have we looked at our data and say, why is student A not doing well as student B? What are the surrounding circumstances? We look at the home life too. We look at the whole child. It's not a cliche. It's a reality. Because when we look at the child, okay, this child came, like the school I run now, we are called Language Academy School. We have over 60% of our students are new to the country. They don't speak English as a first language. So we put so many things in system. And then in the community, we have a rec center in the building that helps them with after school work, homework, because the parents can support them. You know, not that they are not educated, but English is a challenge. And then we have a group of teachers. We have what they call a learning lead, who leads those teachers every day in job embedded. It is difficult, but during the day, we know we have a handle on their time. They sit down in professional learning communities, look at the data, look at the practice, look at the curriculum. We're actually moving away from what they call curriculum, now we're calling them resources. Things that will help us support, because the student factor has to be included in it. I had the privilege as a Nigerian and African to start a school here in the United States that was very high functioning, called the Lithuanian or French Immersion School. I got that privilege in as much as I had all the qualifications and even some, but the privilege became a booster for me because of the language. And with that, we're turning the narrative. Now, if you came, you're Yoruba speaking, we tell your parents, speak Yoruba to your child at home. It's not going to affect that child at all when that child gets to school. You have to have the love for yourself. You have to instill that value in your students. When I hear people telling me, I'm Ade, I'm Oni, I'm like, really? We had the American chief of staff. His name is Charlie Kashivili. Somebody said, is it okay if I call you Cash? He said, no, it's Kashivili. It has the meaning. If we can say Tchaikovsky, if we can say, you know, well, we have so many names that are very juxtaposed, especially Eastern European names. Why are we going to be calling ourselves something that sounds not like us? I'm still answering that question about why education has failed for us and it has succeeded in other countries. We need to have a love for ourselves, have a love for our culture. First and foremost, what did they say earlier? They said you have to love, you know, you have to know yourself as a leader. If you do not know yourself, you will not make those kids know themselves. You have to understand that education is a lifelong process and it starts with the self. And those students need to be exposed to value their culture. We have found that out, and I'm telling you from experience. I went to, I'll tell this story, and I think I'll be a little bit quiet just so that I do not take you too much. When I was running the French immersion school, 98% of my students were white families. We have senators, we have all those people, lawyers, medical doctors, all that stuff. First of all, they say, oh, you're not a real doctor. Oh my gosh, I say, really, PhD is the real doctor. So I was not offended, because you have PhD is the only academic doctorate. And when it all started, only if you have a PhD could you be called a doctor. The others are professional, ED, MD, JD, PharmD, But in the spirit of togetherness, if you have a terminal degree, then you have that title. That's the first thing that I had to confront, always questioning. And then another thing is that, wow, we don't want certain kids. This is a public institution. Every single child has a right to come in here. Our public schools, by the way, are richer and more robust and more resources. That's what I dream for my country, Nigeria, every day. And then I went to a Cinco de Mayo, a neighborhood on the east side of St. Paul, because my school withdrew from all over the city. Now where I am is a community school, just from that community. And then I talked to some parents. Yeah, your children speak Spanish and all that, but you need to give them additional opportunity. They are going to learn very well. And I appreciate you that the Latinos here, Latinx, they make sure that kids speak Spanish. We here, we make sure our kids speak English when they are immersed in it already. And then I told them, I said, try my school. A lot of them were hesitant, but those who came did not regret it. We put them in dramatic arts and so that they can really express themselves in the language. Because the truth about it is that if two people have exactly the same qualification, exactly the same skills, and one is black, one is white, it's the reality. The white one gets it. So I wanted to give them an edge above others. And in so doing, of course, along the way, you made some people mad and all that. But if you are focused, you cannot be afraid. They said, together we stand. So as, a country, we have to hold our leaders accountable. People hold me accountable all the time. We have very strong teachers union. And sometimes when I really think about all these ideas, because my mind is always racing and working, I think about it, this is going to work. I run it by the teachers. It's like, They're looking at me blankly. I'm like, okay, what do you think? And then they come up with all these ideas. Sometimes I don't really believe in what they're saying, but I listen. And then by the end of the day, when teachers buy into what it is that you want to do, it's going to work. There's just one of you in the building, or maybe if you have an assistant too. Or in high school, maybe 4 out of thousands of kids. So you definitely need to understand your power as teachers, understand your relationship as leaders, and then make sure that you play that card. That's why other countries succeed. We have this top-down decision making. We can change it. I'm not saying go and strike. I'm not saying go and start beating people and saying get off the seats. But I'm saying that with the strategies that we will be talking about, you can make mountains move. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for identifying these problems of practice. Tomorrow we will be looking at them, and please keep these things in mind when you are drawing that your program, that your plan, that hopefully you have the chance to implement. Thank you so, so much. It's been a great pleasure, really, talking to my people. Thanks.